Welcome to On Top of the Covers, a weekly podcast by Orlove, dedicated to all of you amazing people, the creative visionaries, entrepreneurs, artists, makers, disruptors, all of you guys around the world. And as we always say, really, doing something very unique and contributing to the culture of music. And so we feature inspirational stories of people contributing to that culture, how they do it creatively, artistically, personally, and professionally. And we're having a very fun time doing it because we're hearing a lot of very unique stories in the process. I'm Matt Gottesman, your host, and I'm also the director of the Orlove brands. You can follow along at Matt Gottesman on Instagram, for everything that's going on in general. And then, the reason we set out to do this is because, really, as mentioned in the intro, that music is really one of our biggest connectors in the world. It's a common bond. We're all privy to having it express ourselves, and so we wanted to open up the conversations of the art and its contributors, and of course their missions. So we're going to show a lot of very unconventional ways and different paths to success. And we've got another incredible guest today who I had the pleasure of meeting several years back, and just followed him as a human being, a soul, an artist, a DJ, and just really found him to be an amazing human being. And so I knew that once we started this podcast, we had to have him on this one as well. And we're going to be talking about diversifying yourself personally and professionally, because no matter how much we love doing what we do in any given thing, if we don't think about life as a bigger picture, we can end up in a series of events that we don't want to be. I mean, I think current life situations show that. But the idea is that you don't want to be sometimes you don't want to be just one thing. You want to be able to take what you make and create, manage it, run it like a business. So then that way you can take those things and reinvest it into other areas of you within your industry, or in other things that can also sustain you. So that way, no matter what happens within your industry, especially a lot of drastic changes, you're still taken care of in some aspect. I mean, while we're here, we're not meant to struggle as much as I think that we sometimes do on Earth. We're much more prone to thrive when we really put ourselves in those type of decision making. And so DJ Yossi, today's guest, is a perfect person to be talking about this. He's an entrepreneur, international DJ. He's an investor. He's been a fixture in the nightclub scene since the age of 13. His talent really seamlessly blended musical genres, only matched by his turntablism. And his ability to read the crowd and have them screaming for more, really has made his style coveted by many. He's shared the stage with the likes of DJ AM, DJ Jazzy Jeff, DJ Premier, the Backstreet Boys, Usher, and more. And his skills are both recognized and revered. He was born in Montreal, Canada, and he travels extensively performing the world's leading nightclubs and for top brands at corporate and marketing events and shows. He's also got himself deeper into real estate and to restaurants, investing, and we're going to talk about that, and a humanitarian cause. So we're going to talk about all that, but man, I appreciate for you being here today, brother. I appreciate having you back on.
Oh man, thank you for having me, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mentioned before the show, we're going to do 4 rapid fire questions. I know we already spoke about them, so it's going to be fun to go through them real quick for the audience. But we'll start there, and then we'll go into, your background, and then we're just going to talk about diversification from there. So sound good?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Let's do it.
All right. So, if all music, question number 1 is, if all music is gone, it's wiped from the face of the earth, and you can only save 3 albums and only listen to those 3 albums for the rest of your life, what would they be?
Well, let's go with the artists, because I think
Yep.
I mean, they have so many albums, so they're going to be great no matter what. So Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson, and Daft Punk.
Perfect. And I know we were having, a brief discussion about them that, I don't really think you can go wrong with those 3 artists. But real quick, just out of curiosity, why those 3?
Stevie Wonder to me is just a magical being. His knowledge, his music, his intuition, his sixth sense that he has makes his music just so much higher, so much better above than other artists that I've heard from. It just feels like it gets to you. Yeah, his music just gets to you. Like the way he plays instruments, his voice, everything is just it's just incredible. Obviously, Michael Jackson is
king.
I mean, right? And from the artist, from the entertainer, from the songwriter, it's just he's got it all, right? I mean, Michael Jackson has had it all, and for forever, like since he's been what, since the Jackson 5. He's just another type of magical being in terms in the music industry that it's hard to. I don't even know if we're gonna have anyone come even close to him again, right? He was just on a level of his own. And then Daft Punk, obviously, well, Daft Punk just to me revolutionized like the whole electronic scene. In my opinion, I may be wrong, but in my opinion, they were, it's Daft Punk. They made electronic music more popular.
Yeah, and that was partially what we were talking about, was that they really push boundaries of creativity. Like, hey, here's how far you really want to take it. Here's how far you can go and beyond. And I thought that it kind of almost gave permission to electronic music to be like, yeah, you can push the boundaries from here. I think that's what I liked. Stevie Wonder, as I was mentioning, was just as soulful as it could be. Like I literally felt at peace living. My mother played him quite a bit in the household in the 80s, and some of his older stuff too. So I was raised actually on a lot of R&B and soul, like old school, like Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, and then of course Michael is Michael. I mean, he's the king of pop.
These guys they get to you, right? Like you just said, they just get into your soul. It's like,
yeah,
they just make you want to love the music that they're doing. It's incredible. It's like you can't go wrong with them.
Yeah, it's true. And so this would be interesting to see how this leads into the second question, which is name an influential person, living or non-living, that if you could interact with for one night, who would it be?
Actually, I did interact with Stevie Wonder one night because I went to his concert. I was invited to his concert, and then I was invited backstage, and I actually met Stevie Wonder. And it was just, I don't even know how to explain how you're able to meet such a living legend, somebody that you've been looking up to for the longest time, and you still do. And his presence, his aura, there's something about him that you're like just stuck. You're like, you don't even know how to react anymore. Like, it's like, wow, I'm actually meeting Stevie Wonder. And that was, I've met so many artists, right? I've met so many artists during my career, but Stevie Wonder was like, I don't even know what to do. I was frozen when I met him.
It
was an experience.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's got to be an incredible experience. That a feeling, when you can feel into someone's aura, you can actually really feel into like their soul, like their actual the fullness of their presence, and like it's powerful. That gives you the chills, powerful. So I can only imagine. Okay, so question number 3 is, in your opinion, what's the best music focused film, documentary, or just a fiction or a fun movie or anything of all time for you?
So okay, so we spoke about this before.
We did.
I'm going to go with the NWO movie.
Yeah. Yes. NWA was incredible.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I thought they did a really good job of portraying their journey, and the acting, you felt like it's like they channeled the original, Ice Cube and Dre and Yella and everybody. So it was cool. It was actually cool. And I actually met Yella. Really?
In Montreal when he was DJing. He got booked to DJ in Montreal, and I met him, and I met Eazy's son because he was with him.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool.
So I met both of them in Montreal. And Yella was actually such a cool guy, and he was a phenomenal DJ. Honestly, he blew me away. Also, like, wow.
Well, I feel like that's his thing. It's been for decades now, so that'd be pretty incredible to see, and like, which will also kind of lead into a conversation later about how long you stay in the art and how do you evolve, but also have other things, right? But that's cool. Yeah. That's really cool. You get to meet him. All right, and then finally, what's an important book, podcast, platform, Audible, anything that's like really helped navigate your creativity and your passion?
I think more of a platform, and it has to be YouTube.
Yeah,
that's for sure, because YouTube allowed me to get introduced to artists, DJs that I would have never really got to know on a regular basis. Living around Montreal, if I didn't travel and if I didn't see them for myself, I would have never known they existed. So I think YouTube allowed me to open my mind my creativity and my knowledge on other DJs around the world, which is amazing to me, right?
Yeah.
Because when we spoke about this before, I spoke about when I first got introduced to DJ AM in Montreal, which was, he got booked in 2006, but I never knew who DJ AM was. I didn't really do my research because I'm like, this guy's probably just a joke or whatever it is. And that was in my head back then, 2006, where
Right.
again, we didn't really have social media. The only thing we really had was Myspace.
Right. I remember.
I think Facebook was just about to start or just starting. So Myspace was starting to become big. I remember him being booked as, well, with Nicole Richie, right? Because they were engaged. And so I went to see him that night and expecting absolutely nothing, right? I didn't expect much from him, really. I only heard that he was a DJ from Cali, and I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. That's nice. But I have to say that he blew my mind away completely that night. From his style of DJing, from him using the software, the Serato software, which back in 2006 wasn't that big yet. Not every DJ knew about it. Not everyone was using computers to DJ with. But he just, man, that guy that night put an imprint on me and blew me away so much that same night after that booking, I went home and I started searching everything I could about him. I started Googling him. I started YouTubing him, and I saw the stuff on YouTube. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's on another level. Like, I mean, I was doing the same kind of style he was doing, not as extensive as he was, and not with the scratching that he was doing, and not as fast as he was doing either, because I was still using like turntables mixed with a little bit of CD players, and I was just back and forth, like changing and putting a new vinyl, putting a new CD. So, but he was using the software and mixing so fast, and his creativity was on another level. It was hard to, if you weren't there that night, well, I mean, if you never heard him live for the first time, you couldn't really understand it. So I just started like YouTubing him, and that led me to other DJs, and that just opened the door to so many other aspects of DJing that I never really looked into. But when I actually did start looking into it, that's when my creativity and my knowledge of DJing just blew up even more. So I thank YouTube for that.
Yeah, I love the fact that you brought up a platform, for sure. And as we were saying, it's like a platform like YouTube, and in some cases Instagram. But YouTube early on for me, and yeah, MySpace early on. I was on MySpace. Yeah. MySpace taught me a lot about how to express yourself on the web, and how to code a little bit, because you actually had to like apply like some coding technique a little bit here and there if you wanted to like customize your profile. Not a lot of people remember those days because they just get on Facebook and it's like, yeah, boom, poof, it's made for you.
My God, I remember the backgrounds and everything else.
Right? Yeah. So I remember, how do you create your space, right? And but the platforms throughout the years, yeah, they inspired me constantly on watching how other artists and writers and podcasters, or even like brands and packaging and design, and how they think through a feeling of something they present. So when people like the way the things that I create and like the way it looks and sounds and feels, I'm like, yeah, well, a lot of things I'm inspired by are the things that, you know, you find on these platforms, and you see how people create. And then more importantly, what you also brought up, which was a lot of these are very educational, because you can see like, oh, that's how he's doing that in this software, or that's how she's designing that using this program, or that's how this person's doing this. And so, I mean, the beautiful information age can, you know, teach us new techniques in our mastery. So I love that you brought up a platform.
I mean, when you think about it, right, as a DJ, you listen to mixtapes.
Right.
There's so much stuff going on in mixtape. And when you're listening to it, you're like, okay, well, how did that person do this? How did he scratch this? You're just trying to think, and you're just trying to visualize in your head the way that was done. But on YouTube, you're actually watching it, and you're like, oh, I get it. And then you go and you practice it and you redo it until you get it and you're able to replicate it. And then you just add it to your knowledge of DJing.
So true. So true. And I mean, it's what was cool too is you were talking about like how you were watching with DJ AM. Because I remember that time frame. 2006 to use software means that you're also using a lot of MP3s and a lot of other tracks digitized.
Yeah.
And we were still very much in a newer, like, you know, the vinyl, the analog sound was still king in a lot of ways, and because Napster was being fought by all the major labels, you know, so I mean that was kind of coming to an end because of Apple and iTunes, but it's like, yeah, he was very much a pioneer at that time. For context for the audience, I know I mentioned that you got started at 13, but I love your story and I'd love for people to know more about it, because of like how early on music found you, and then you started to really how it got really incorporated in your life. And then of course, over the years, how it helped you also diversify and think about both how you're existing in the music sphere, if you will, of like things in businesses, but then also the bigger picture from that. And then we'll go from there.
So I started DJing when I was 13 years old with my brother-in-law, who was already doing this for a living, right? So he was DJing weddings, corporate events, private events, all types. And I was just helping him out, setting up and taking down the gear from one event to the other event. And then one day I'm like, you know what? I'd like to sit down and just see what he's actually doing. And I took a night and I just sat down next to him and I saw him taking records out of the crates and started playing them and seeing how he was able to control the crowd. I'm like, wow, it's incredible how music just got people. And being like around 12, 13 years old, I never really saw a live DJ. I never really understood what a live DJ was until then. And it just captured me for some reason. And from that point on, I bought some gear from him, went home and started practicing. And for 2 years straight, I was just practicing until, I mean, I still practice today, but I mean, it was just in me and I just wanted to learn. And it was just a passion that was growing and growing. And I'm like, oh my God, I actually love this. And I was just staying home all the time. After school, I would come home and practice. At summertime, I would just work with them and just come home and practice. I wouldn't do anything else. And especially my mom wasn't happy about it. She was like, you need to go out, you need to go to camp, you need to do something. Like you can't only stay home and do this. And she got fed up of like hearing the music all the time. So, but I'm like, it was just in me. It was just something I wanted to do. In terms of like just practicing, it wasn't something I saw myself doing down the line for like 5, 10, 15 years from then actually. But I found something that made me happy, and I found something that I was able to express myself out of. So at 15, one of his DJs had an event and he asked me if I wanted to come with him and, you know, just help him out, I guess, or just stay with him. And I did, and I started DJing with him, and he started teaching me everything I really needed to know, all the crucial parts I needed to know at that age about being a live DJ. He taught me everything I needed to know. So in terms of like reading the crowd, how to play music, when to play music, how to count music, he taught me songs and artists about the 70s and the 80s that I just never knew about. And I'm like, I was just absorbing everything that he was giving me. And I was such a sponge that I was just taking it in and taking it in and taking it in. And that I think helped me develop my abilities as a DJ to another level. Having that kind of mentor helping me out and making me understand everything that I needed to understand with the experience that he had at my young age at that point was, I think for me, a game changer. So that just helped me out throughout my career, completely throughout my career. At 19, I started the clubs. In my early 20s, I started traveling. My late 20s, I opened up my own event company. I started doing more and more events, because I never stopped really doing the events. I was doing the clubs and traveling and still doing the events. I was still doing the private events, the corporate events. I never stopped it. And I just started doing more of them on my own account and buying and reinvesting in it, buying more gear, buying more lighting, buying more this, more that, for my company to actually grow more, which it worked because I was able to sell more, right? Because as a DJ, you're able to sell yourself as a DJ, but that's it. That's all. And that's not what I would only want to do. I want to be able to have more, to be able to increase my sales as well. So I did that. I increased my sales. I made more money. I reinvested money in the company, but at the same time, I started investing my money into other things, because I just thought in my head, I'm like, you know what? There was always something inside of me that told me, like, DJing is one thing, but how long do you see yourself actually doing this? How far do you see yourself actually DJing and in the future? So I needed something. My mind, it was just telling me, take some money that you have, start investing it somewhere else. So that's what I started doing. I started buying real estate. From that point on, after buying real estate, I had another gentleman that approached me to invest into a restaurant. And I got all the info from him. I sat down with them. I went to the restaurant. I tried the food. I looked at the venue itself, price point, the environment, the location of it. And I asked myself, well, is this a place where I could see myself potentially coming once, 2, 3 times a week, which became the case. Yes. I felt very comfortable going there, whether it would be in sweatpants, t-shirt, or a suit. It didn't matter, as long as, to me, that's what was really important to me. It's like it made people comfortable, no matter, how, if they came back after work, or if they came from a jog, or after the gym, whatever it is. As long as they felt comfortable, that's what mattered to me. I didn't want to invest in something that was too pretentious or high end. That wasn't my goal. I really wanted to invest into something that fit who I was, and it literally fit my criteria. And I invested in it, and then within 1 year, we paid it off. And then from that point on, we just started opening up others, and I think we're about number 12 now. We have 12 restaurants, including some franchises that we have inside. And this year we're supposed to add more franchises to the list. So yeah, I mean, I've been always investing in, like, just diversifying as much as I can at this point.
There's a lot in there that I really appreciate. One, diversifying within your own industry, finding new ways and new opportunities and how they can all merge together. So it's like, yeah, I'm DJing, but I need more equipment. But as I'm getting more equipment, let me not have it just sit here. Let me actually also maybe rent that out. And now that actually is another revenue stream. Now I've got 2 revenue streams. And then, okay, more money's coming in. Let me put that into another vehicle, maybe outside of music, that can work for me. And so I do have a question there for you that I know what a lot of people that are maybe starting to think that way, because they're starting to see that money come in. But I'll get to that in a second. But one of the other things I wanted to give you praise for was that where you were talking about, you didn't want to invest into something that was too high end. You wanted to kind of feel right. It had to check off all these boxes. But I like the fact that you're using a lot of rationality and intuition meets emotion and feeling, which is a very delicate balance, because you never want to make like decisions from an out of balance emotional place, but you dove into the emotion, the feeling of like, well, would it be a place that I would want to come to and that I know others would feel the same way? I want them to feel the same way in coming here, and not feeling like it's too high end where they couldn't. And isn't that interesting? Because then that ended up leading to being not only successful, but a concept that can be built into more and then franchise as well. So it just goes to show you, like you were being very rational, intuitive of like, hey, I know I need to do something different. But you're also like feeling into it a little bit, like, hey, but how do I make sure this has a vibe, like this has a feeling that is inviting as well too? So I thought that was really cool that you did that.
I feel like if you're investing in something, you have to look at yourself and be like, well, depending on what you're investing in, but if you're investing in a restaurant, I'm like, well, it was very important for me to feel like I can get my friends here and they would have a good time. They would feel comfortable. It could be my parents. It could have been family. It could have been friends. It could have been colleagues. As long as anybody that would walk in and just feel good about it. And obviously the food has to be on point. The prices has to be on point too. The service has to be on point as well. I guess it was a combination of everything that made it for me. And that's why I invested in it. And that's why we're still in it so far.
I love that. It's, you have to feel into it. You have to have a kind of almost a relationship with it. When I remember when like cryptocurrency first came out, and I started learning about it from several people, it was almost a no-brainer. And some people ask, like, but how? And I'm like, it's just weird because I'm a tech nerd, so I get it. I'm like, oh, this is going to do this for this, and this is backing that, and that makes sense. And I can't wait till we have that software. And people are like, but it's like in the air. It's not even, but it's like if you feel into something and you kind of have a relationship with it in some way, your intuition meets your passion, or your intuition meets your kind of, you know what I mean? So I thought it was really cool. And my question I was going to ask for you is, and we'll get more probably about crypto and NFTs and all that fun stuff here later. But my question is, because I'm sure there's a lot of artists out there, or music related industry, or on the fringes of the industry, or creatives, right, that are making, their content and music for the internet and stuff like that. And maybe there's some money coming in. What's the first thing to think about in like, you got that download, like, the download was, I need to diversify. When they start thinking about these things, what's a first step that they even remotely think of? Because I get asked all the time, like, should I invest in gold? Should I invest in crypto? Should I invest in this? I'm like, it's different for every person. It's very different, What was it for you? I know obviously real estate is a very obvious choice. It's a very obvious choice. What was the process for you though, in terms of saying, okay, I'm gonna start looking into this a little bit, and or how did you take some of those steps?
So there was Warren Buffett said it best, that you have to be able to make money while you sleep.
Yes.
Well, not exactly those words, but that's what he was basically coming out to. You have to make money work for you while you're asleep. And being a DJ is, if you don't DJ, you don't make that money. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. It's either you DJ or you're a producer. And if you produce and your music is out and you get royalties and everything else. And if you're a DJ producer, then you have your royalties and you're able to tour, which is amazing, right? Especially if you're a producer, you just have to produce a song. Hopefully it becomes to the point where it gets played on the radio and you get royalties from there. But my goal was always to be able to have some sort of revenue that was passive income. Mm-hmm. And my first thought of it, where it was like a no-brainer, was real estate, right? Because yes, there's work behind it, but at the end of the day, it's passive income. The more properties you have, the more your properties pay each other off. And you're still able to make, depending on how you do it, right? Hopefully you're smart about it, and you don't you don't overbid on something that's. It's like the stock market, basically. If you think about it, right? If you buy a stock, and if you don't understand how to properly evaluate its price, and you're overbuying it, when a correction comes or a crash comes, you're gonna lose a lot of money. And with the real estate, especially these days, you have to be very careful, because, especially as an investor, right? Because I'm talking more as an investor right now. When you're buying a property, you have to make sure that, number one, you need the money for the down payment, yes. But number two, are you going to be able to have revenue coming in that's going to be positive cash flow every month from that property? You don't want to start buying into things that you have to start paying out of your own pocket. I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, but I'm doing this for the future. I'm buying a condo, and yeah, I probably have to probably have to put in $200 a month into it, but it's for my future. It's good. I don't look at it that way. I see it. I understand some people look at it that way, but I don't look at it that way. I see buying properties where you have multiplexes, where you have multiple doors, where even if one or two doors don't get rented for a couple months, you still have the other doors that are paying your mortgage and your taxes and everything else, and you're still able to stay afloat. That's where I look at more in terms of properties. And like, when you do it properly, like I said before, if you're cash flow positive, then if you think about it, when you buy your own place, your properties are paying for your own place.
Yep.
Right? Because that's what it is. You're investing your money in other properties. You're making your tenants are paying your rents, that are paying your mortgage, your taxes, your expenses. But at the same time, you have money left around to pay for your own mortgage as well. Maybe add on a little bit more to pay off your groceries, or maybe your car expense, or whatever it is, or your insurance as well. So you won't have to struggle as much anymore, right? That's the whole point. To me, that's the whole point of life, is not to have to struggle, to be able to live life to the fullest as much as you can, to be able to do what you love the most, and not always have to worry about money. Because I feel like the stress of money is what hurts a lot of people. As much as they say money doesn't buy happiness, it doesn't buy happiness, but it buys you relief. That's what I think money does. It's sad to say, but it is a reality.
Yeah.
And with this pandemic that hit, being a DJ and having a lot of my friends are DJs, and I've been not warning them, but I've always been telling them, you know what, you should be thinking about other ways to make money, and not only focus on DJing, because DJing is fun. We love it. A lot of us make good money, great money. Like, I mean, I know guys are made insane money with DJing, but when life happens, when you just don't expect something to happen to you, you need a plan B. And to me, my plan B was always to diversify in ways where, I have to make sure that money still comes in. Obviously, my main businesses got hit with the pandemic. So from DJing, from my event industry, my restaurants, they all got hit. But thank God I had my real estate, because people still have to pay rent, right? And a lot of people are not in the same industries that I am. A lot of people are still working. The majority of people have still been working during the pandemic. It's mostly the tourism, the hotels, the restaurants, the service industry, the event industry, that, the travel industry. Those are the biggest hits, basically. But everybody else still works. People still work from home. Obviously, real estate, commercial real estate took a hit, but they're still surviving with the help of the governments. And only in Canada, I'm talking about in Canada, the subsidies that we have, the help that we have over here, at least that it helps them stay afloat a little bit until everything gets hopefully back to normal. But I've always said this to my friends and my close DJ friends. I'm like, you always have to think for the eventuality that maybe you won't DJ forever.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe something will happen. Maybe you'll get older. Maybe you won't want to DJ anymore. Maybe you'll just want to, have a family and just slow down. Maybe you'll just don't want to work late nights. Maybe your body's going to be tired of working late nights. So I've always been pushing that a lot on my friends, and just trying to make them realize that, think about other ways that money can work for you, instead of you always having to have to work for your money, basically, whether it be online, real estate, other business, whatever it is, but try to have a passive income coming in.
You brought up a lot of really crucial points in terms of working for you, so you don't have to struggle, because otherwise the battle between time value of money, right? Exchanging time for money constantly. Your body gets tired, your mind gets tired, your industry changes, the inevitable happens, human behavior, crises, global crises, all these things happen. And you want to always be thinking about how can something be working for you regardless of a time, that's happening. And the other thing that I like that you brought up about evaluating, like when you're like, and you brought that up both in real estate and then there was something else. Oh, in a stock
market.
Yeah. Like but you brought up a very good point where, I get it. People say, oh, well, I'm buying this condo for the future. Like, well, yeah, but like, let's take a second to think about, what are you paying for it? What's the return monthly? What's the cash flow like? When do you, will there be somewhat of a return for the down payment? And then like, when are you breaking even from the down? And then when is it all above that? And then, what do you plan on maybe doing with that, that money? What is the overage? Is there going to be some repairs? Do you have to think about that? Like, how soon do you need to do certain things? I mean, just the whole taking a moment just to better understand it and treat it responsibly, like as an investment, versus, oh, I'm going to just buy it and then, I'll be in more debt. It's like, use an asset as an asset, not as a debt, because you're solely buying it for the future, which just extends you, like overextends you. Use it to actually work for you. And I also like the fact that you brought up, we'll look at multi-unit, because you have multiple doors and multiple rents. And, and when one of them isn't being used or two of them isn't being used, third and fourth is. And so it's just those extra details that I think sometimes people they see even in media and on social media, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, real estate's the thing I have to go do, so I'm gonna go buy a piece. And you're like, well, yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like people don't seem to understand, okay, like I said, condos, if you live in a condo and condos are good if you live in them, and you're able to sell them afterwards if you want to, or if you move out eventually after 2-3 years, but you paid your mortgage and you want to rent it out, cool, perfect, right? Because after a few years and you have to you're refinancing your mortgage, your payments go lower a little bit. So by renting it out, you're able to cover everything, right? That's one thing. But as an investment, to me, a condo is hard to justify. It's really, I have a couple myself. I have one that I lived in. Both of them actually lived in. One I lived in for a while, and my payments were almost nothing at that point, right? So I rented out. I'm making money on it. Another one also, I've lived in it for a while. My payments went down. I moved out. I rented it out. But to just buy out a condo, to rent it out solely as an investment I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it, because you don't rent it out for 1 or 2 months, you're screwed for the year. Mm-hmm. You're literally screwed for the year, because your mortgage is just your mortgage over there is expensive. Your condo fees are expensive. You have insurances on it. You have taxes on it you have to pay. It doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense. So that's why if you live in it, and after a couple of years, when you remortgage it or whatever it is, and you see that your payments are lowered, and you're able to rent it, and you see that you're able to make a positive cash flow on it every month, cool. If you want to do it that way, go ahead. If you feel like it's something that you want to have in terms of like an investment afterwards, and you want to keep it for a long run, but you're still going to be able to make a positive cash flow, go for it if you feel like it's a good investment for you. But again, I have 2 of them. My payments are extremely low on them, extremely low. So that's why I don't mind renting them out. If it was for my first investment, I would definitely try to look into something that has multiple doors. Yes, it's going to be work. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be work, right? Because you're dealing with multiple tenants and you're always going to have work to do, whatever it is. But if you calculate it properly and you see that you have a positive cash flow, and there's ways of doing things with real estate, right? You can have a home line of credit on a property, like where you have, instead of having a mortgage, it's a line of credit that you have on it. So you're paying that line of credit every month. Like let's say you're paying $1,500 on that line of credit, but by the end of the year, you paid off 1,500 times 12, right? So it's like 15,000, about 17,000, about 18,000,
18,000.
let's say. But at least you have that $18,000 you can play with now, because it's a line of credit. It's not a mortgage anymore. So there's different things that you have mortgages on a property, and you have a line of credit on the property that you can play with. So I have both, and depending on which properties that I have one property that I have a line of credit with. So throughout the years, because my payments have been low, because my tenants have been paying my line of credit, I have $60,000 now that I could play with for renovations that I don't have to put out of my own pocket. So I'm like, if something goes wrong, I'm still making money from I'm still making my positive revenue, my positive profits throughout the month, but I'm not even touching my own money anymore. I'm using the money from the line of credit to be able to pay for, I don't know, a plumbing job or a roof job or whatever it is. And I could still play. I can actually do that with my other properties too, right? I could take that money and play and fix my other properties as well. And it's an expense. It's still an expense. So, there's ways of doing there's ways of playing with the market, the real estate market, that people should be aware of. And they just have to do their proper research. And I mean, knowledge is power, right? At the end of the day. So the more you know about how to be able to make your money work for you, the better you're off.
Amen. So true. And I think that's where, again, you bring up the point of like, just do the research, just take the time to look into all these details, or at least, be thinking about the ones you may not see yet, where you don't see them coming, like the repairs or like the market turns. I remember, for me, when you were talking about the condo, I was thinking about a house that I had in another city that it was in a beautiful area, but it was in an area that really just after the market changed. This is how long ago it changed during the crash in 2008 to 2010. It never really rebounded, even in a beautiful golf course community. It just never really rebounded because it was a very low trafficked, low inhabiting area, even though it was beautiful. And so I was carrying that thing and even having to pay an extra few $100s a month. And so some people were like, "Oh, I'm surprised you're going to sell that." And I was like, it's not because of the market and because of it still is yet to produce any it hasn't been an asset for me yet. You know what I mean? And I don't really know when it's going to be. And it's interesting enough because I sold it to a company who ended up, they couldn't get it either for what they were hoping to afterwards. I was like, I told you. I was like, the market is, it was like open door. And I was like, I told you. But they still had a plan in what they were going to do with it. And, they're also driving but if you've got a property and you're driving down what's owed, great. But even then it's like, you have to look at the investment because liquidity wise, you could put more into it. But if you're really not going to be able to get that return back on it, that's something to think about. And that can happen. But I liked how you were just describing, even what you did with the condos. So here's a good question for you because, you mentioned earlier too about even if the investment is online, and we're moving into an interesting space with Web 3.0. And, it's coming up a lot more and everybody there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of excitement. I personally think it's going to be a 5 to 10 year, ramp up. Of course there's hype in the first year, and of course people are seeing the money, especially in with Web3 and NFTs and tokenization and the token economy and all these things. What I think some people don't realize about it is that crypto is a whole different mindset, and it's also a different approach on money. That isn't like, oh, I'm going to make a shit ton of money from my art or my music or my everything, and then tomorrow I get the Lambo. It is a whole different mentality about abundance. But I would love to get your take on where you see even the trends musically or in art or in the internet moving forward, where people are going to be able to diversify themselves.
Well, I've been seeing a lot more in terms of the music industry with the NFTs, right? I think Steve Aoki came out with his own NFT.
Right.
There's a few DJs that I've been following that have come out with their own NFTs. Again, to me, NFTs you've been doing it you've known about this and you've been doing it already for a year, I think, right? I'm still trying to understand the whole concept of it. I'm still trying to understand the whole, like, I'm still trying to grasp the whole idea of an NFT. Is it for everybody? I don't know. I don't know yet, right? Like, so far I've been seeing a lot of big names doing it. The big names that have a big following that create some kind of NFT, sell it for like thousands of dollars. Would it be for the normal person out there on like just creating an NFT? Maybe not at the moment. Maybe they have to get their name. They have to grow their name first, right? As an artist, to be able to sell their NFTs at the prices that these other people are selling it at. I do see the music industry, like in terms of music industry, like especially online, a lot more for DJs, especially a lot more streaming it is helping a lot of DJs, like Twitch. I mean, I used to do the Instagram live at the beginning until Instagram just started like deciding that it was copyright infringement, but it's okay for D-Nice to do it because D-Nice has such a big following, and they saw, and Facebook saw that D-Nice had such a demand for it that they're like, well, no, D-Nice, we're gonna let him play, but then the DJs were gonna cut off, which is like, you know, anyways, it's a whole other discussion because that's just not cool at all. But at least D-Nice put online streaming for DJs on the map a lot more, right? He had such a big following. He still has a big following. He still does it. I know so many other DJs they're still doing it on Instagram because there's, for some reason, their Instagram allows them specifically for XY reason. But then you have the Twitch community now, right? Mm-hmm. So you have the DJs are doing stuff on Twitch and they're getting compensated for it, which is an amazing thing because, you know, we can't work in the clubs, we can't have our events, but you're able to get monetized on Twitch. I don't do Twitch just because DJing is such a passion for me. It's always been a passion for me. And yes, I do it. I get paid for it. But when I get paid for it, it's because I'm playing for a crowd. Mm-hmm. And when I'm playing for crowds, it's because I love playing for crowds. It's a reaction that I get by playing for the crowds in front of me that makes me fuel what I have inside of me. So it's never been about the money. The money came afterwards, right? Because I've done so many free events as a DJ that I didn't really care about the money. I was only caring about the art of it. But the money followed, which is always nice, right? And like we said, it's always nice. And then you become your mind becomes more of like, okay, well, if money's coming in now, then think about, like my mind became more of a businessman. Started having a businessman aspect to it. And not just being the artist to it, just the artist. I had to match both of them. But like I was trying to say is like, I love DJing so much. It's always been a passion. I still practice till today. But I've tried online, the Twitch stuff, just for myself. Anyways, I just can't seem to do it just because I get bored. I love having a crowd's reaction. When I'm playing something, when I'm playing a record, when I'm doing something for the crowd, I love having the crowd's reaction. That's what fuels me. So playing in front of a camera and just watching people commenting, it's cool. It's great. I support my friends when they're playing on Twitch. Like I go on their feed all the time and I support them all the time. But for myself, I get bored. That's why I haven't really fully committed to it, even though I know a lot of my friends do make money with it. I guess because also I have other investments that I don't have to worry about money as much anymore. I don't really want to do Twitch just because I'd rather wait and play for a real crowd. Right. I want to see people's reactions. Like I'll do streaming here and there, but I know some guys some DJs are doing it like 3, 4, or 5 nights a week. I'm like, man, I don't even know how you guys do it at this point. Like I'd be like, just like, I need a crowd in front of me. Like I don't mind doing 3, 4 nights a week, 5 nights a week, like I used to do before, but I need a crowd. That's what fuels me. That's what gives me that's what fuels my passion for it. And just doing it online, I'm like, it doesn't drive me as much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about just the body after a while. I mean, just like and the mind just, I mean, that 4 or 5 nights a week. I mean, it's a lot of overtime, but I can also see how the passion fuels it just the same. I mean, some of the things that I do, people will be like, I could never do that. I'm like, yeah, I could just do this forever. But there's a lot of really cool key things that you were saying. First of all, small correction with me. And so I knew about NFTs for the last year because of crypto and that community, but I'm still in the beginning of creating my very first one and my first token.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is a lot of fun. But I get the technology to do it. So because I grew up around just this, around tech. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. This is how you do this. This is what it's going to do. Amazing. So I'm in the middle of creating 2 NFTs and a token being a coin. Right. But what I like what you were saying about, I think it's still early on. And so you're seeing big influential people because they've got, or artists, because they've got that influence, like, hey, let's just test it out. Like, let's see what the hype is all about. There's a lot more use cases starting to emerge and will continue to emerge over the next several years. And that's the part I think that's also very exciting to watch. And so like when you're bringing up, like, for example, D-Nice and like what happened there, right? And then moving to Twitch, which by the way, I also like the fact that you brought up, let me try this and see, okay, not really sure that this is my thing. Because I think that's the only real way you can ever figure out diversification is like, where do you feel right and where does something not feel right, and do you keep moving and keep experimenting? With the NFTs, here's my thoughts when you think of like D-Nice or think of like a DJ or think of it's very community centric in that normally if you wanted, let's say you came up with some original work, and just like you were talking about how you're trying to do some live streaming on Insta, and all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna, sorry, you can't do that. He can, you can't. She can, you can't, right? Well, in an NFT world, if you wanted to, you could say, you know what, I'm doing some original work over here, and it's a mixed thing of different music, both past and present. And I want to do a whole mixtape over here. I don't necessarily need the music industry to launch it. I'm going to put it up on blockchain, mint it, and now my direct audience can purchase it, reshare it, even have some of the rights to my work, even though I'm the original creator, and it's minted on the blockchain as I am always the original creator of it.
Yeah.
No one can ever say otherwise, no matter how many times you resell the token with the rights and all that other stuff. In fact, I even have royalties built into that. So that's what I think is exciting for people's work and art in terms of recurring in that aspect, is that you can even build NFTs to continue to work for you long after they've been consumed by the people, and then it also takes out a lot of the middlemen, which I think is going to be incredible. And then when you see somebody like Mark Cuban, what he's doing is a very cool use case. What do we know about sports tickets? We know that there's a primary market and a secondary market, right? And in the secondary market, you get all these different platforms that sell the tickets and whatnot. And so Mark Cuban, smart man, obviously says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to sell our tickets as an NFT. So, it's your actual ticket. It's like just like you would purchase through, another platform, but it's an actual ticket. And anybody that purchases them and then wants to also resell them later on, we're also going to build in a royalty. So we'll also make money off of the secondary market as well too. Think about what that does for a secondary platform of as a ticket seller, right? So it has this unique way of taking creator and consumers or audience or community and bringing them all together much more, succinctly in a way that disrupts a lot of the people in the middle, in the supply chain, if you will.
But I think it's going to take a couple of years, right?
Very much.
For a lot more people to get into it, and for a lot more people to build a community, like you just said.
Yes.
Because it's not just anybody could just create an NFT and expect to sell it for X amount of money.
Exactly.
It will take a while, like anything else. Like as a DJ, it takes a while for people to get to know who I am as a DJ, right? Mm-hmm. So as an NFT artist, let's just put it that way, you can't just expect to come out with something and be like, well, here we go, I'm putting it out there. Who's gonna buy it for $2,000?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, it's such a good point. Let's use DJ AM as an example of what, back in the beginning, when you were saying how when you saw his software, well, he had already been playing with it for a little bit, and he probably had an entry point. And that's why I tell people who ask me about NFTs right now, and I said, listen, I'm creating one solely because I love art and I love creating, and I want to do a piece from my own work online. For it to be consumed doesn't have to be any like major, it could be for like $100 of like, 0.01 Ethereum, like nothing, like I'm okay with it. And they're like, well, why would you do it? I'm like, because it's not necessarily about the money, but about understanding where we're heading from, our work, and understanding how to mint and how to work within blockchain, and how to also lead more people that consume your work into blockchain, to break down the barriers of entry for it, and like go over time. So that way, by the way, so 2-3 years from now, you'd be like, man, how do you know so much about this? Hey, you're DJ AM. How do you know so much about like, how you're using the software? Like, oh, well, I started on that software 3 years ago, and now I'm having so much fun with it, and doing things. And so you're absolutely right. I think people try to get in and they automatically think like, oh, I'm going to make so much money. Like, and by the way, that's already counterintuitive to the culture of crypto. It was because the ones that are actually crushing it are like, oh, we can do the money. They're like, what do you mean? I'm already like going to buy, get this art over here, and nothing. It just sits on the blockchain. They're like, what do you mean it sits on the blockchain? I mean, some are like, oh, well, I'll keep some of it on blockchain. Some goes to pay taxes, and some just to pay my bills, and I'll keep it invested.
But like you said, you know what? It's funny because I'm just thinking about it. DJ Ham, whoever handles his estate or his memorabilia and his social media, whatever it is at this point, could have so much to offer as NFTs. Mm-hmm. It'd be crazy. Like even Jazzy Jeff, like, a lot of these guys, like Jazzy Jeff with the Fresh Prince, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, like so many things from there. Like there's so many NFTs that could be created at that point, right? And just could be sold, and they would make a good amount of money basically with that. Obviously, right? Because they're already known. These are guys that are already known. They've been in the game for a while. So having an NFT from them would be like, I would buy something from Jazzy Jeff. I would buy something from DJ Am. I would buy something from the Daft Punk. Imagine Daft Punk having NFTs. I think that would sell out like crazy. Like so many NFTs that they would create would be like just selling out like crazy, and that'd be like you said, like because you're still getting royalties every time something happens with it. Somebody else, if they sell it to somebody else, you're still getting royalties no matter what. So it's a whole other ball game. It's a whole other interesting way of the whole blockchain technology. Like you said, the way blockchain is growing more and more, and the corporate companies are starting to accept it more and more. Like we've seen it with Tesla now. We're like there's more and more companies starting to like accept it. Like Kathy Wood from ARK Invest it loves the blockchain technology. She loves the whole crypto. She loves the whole field of it. It's just it's gonna grow more and more throughout the years, right? I mean, it's just a question of like the society getting to understand it better, to adapt it better, and I think it's just growing from this point on.
Yeah, and then you bring up a really good point about whether it's Jazzy Jeff or Fresh Prince or the concept of nostalgia, collectible ownership of something that relates to the individual, right? And supporting their art, royalties that go back to them, you being able to resell, like this kind of universal, kind of inner exchange, if you will. And so it's definitely gonna be an interesting time and see how those are treated as investments, moving forward. And I do like that it at least allows artists to diversify in a multitude of ways of like, hey, you don't need to only do these things. And then, and then there's of course also the concept of tokenization, which creating your own coin or your own currency, right, on the blockchain. And these conversations are coming up, and it's I was given a really great experience, great example using Illmind, who's a really great producer, Grammy producer, and and he creating his own coin, and people say, well, why, and I said, well, he outlined it very succinctly. It's like, here, with this, you can buy the coin, but you can interact with me directly. When you buy a coin, it'll give you access to like tickets to to do a beat with me, to when new beats get out, loop packs come out, to this, like, bridging the gap between the community and the creator. But he approaches it with this could take a while, so like, let's just kind of like build on top of its possibilities. But now, people are even applying it to like virtual real estate. I mean, it's insane. You can literally buy blocks of like,
wait, how did they do it?
Huh?
How are they doing it?
Well, he didn't buy virtual real estate, but you can, like, so there's different sites out there that are like where you can look into virtual real estate, or even owning someone like in Decentraland. And like the guy that bought the Beeple NFT for 69 million, he was a crypto guy. He was interviewed, and he's like, I don't really, he has like, I think about $1 billion in crypto, and his story is interesting, and he still lives very chill, like in just a really chill apartment, but he was talking about he's been gobbling up a lot of land in the virtual like worlds, because why? Well, people use it's no different than like the gamers, but in these virtual worlds, people can put up their art or display the things that they bought in the digital world, and like you can go and visit it. Well, then if you've got millions of eyeballs on it, right, in that land, well, you can also have sponsors, or you can also like, there's always these like emerging use cases where you can actually like have people pay you to like go into that virtual museum that you've created for all your artwork. I mean, there's like a million. It's truly an interesting time, but it's interesting that he was saying how much, virtual land he was actually buying up was quite a bit. And do people probably looked at that in the physical world and be like, oh, that makes no sense. Yeah,
that's crazy.
It does make sense if you think about, well, if more people are spending their time and money in the virtual world, it could, absolutely. But yeah, it's it's a hard concept for maybe an old paradigm, but for where we're heading, it makes a lot of sense. I'm like, ooh, I got to be in Decentraland.
That's crazy,
right? So, but yeah, but obviously, it still doesn't take away from things that are happening in the physical world, such as stocks, such as restaurants, such as real estate. And I think that the point that you made such incredible points are, and be diversified enough for things to work for you so you don't struggle and work more than the rest of your life and only work, I
mean, we said this, right?
Mm-hmm. So
money doesn't buy happiness, but it relieves your stress.
Yeah.
It does relieve stress. It relieves the stress of the struggle that, like a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of people deal with. And that's money is a big obstacle for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Living costs are going up. I mean, everybody's talking about prices going up very soon because of like rates going up, and not everybody's going to be, salaries are not going. I mean, the minimum wage is not being adjusted to what the living requirements are at this point. It's I don't know. It's kind of weird how this whole world is. I find I don't know. It's just, there has to be a way of like, I mean, there's hunger in countries
Mm-hmm.
where 3.2 million of people die every year of hunger. And I'm like, you have billionaires like Bezos and like Gates and like Elon that could literally wipe out, if they wanted to, right? Just by with their charities, they could literally wipe it out. They could wipe out hunger, and it could literally like save so many people. Even the governments, sometimes I feel like they're spending their money on stuff that like, how does this make sense? Like there's people dying in the planet of them not having food, and you're spending money on some other things. Are just, how does that make sense in helping humanity? A lot of things, I don't know. It's very contradictory, but that's why I said, the only one that's going to help you is you. At the end of the day, it's not the government's not there to help you. Nobody else is there to help you. It's only you that has to help yourself, and you have to wake up and decide on how you're gonna be able to help yourself. And when I say YouTube, when I talk about YouTube before, YouTube is a powerful engine of education that people need to understand how to use, right? Because there's so much knowledge on YouTube from people literally giving out free knowledge, whether it comes from for real estate or how to understand how to read in the stock market, how to understand how to evaluate a stock, option calls, anything. What you don't need much money to start off in the stock market and actually be able to come out good in a couple of years. Like I know I've seen a lot of people, that started maybe $100, $200, $300, $500, $1,000. And they were, by understanding how the stock market works, how to understand how a stock works, how to read a stock, they were able to turn it around into thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But again, it's like I said before, knowledge at the end of the day is power. The more you know, the better you are off.
Amen.
So, and it's literally at a tip of your fingers, basically, right? Like you just have to Google.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much knowledge. There's so much. If you're willing to take the time to read, to understand, to watch, and do your due diligence properly, you will be able to transform whatever you have into something bigger if you really do it properly, and not just do it because everybody else is doing it, right? I mean, everybody else is jumping into the Bitcoin train. Yeah, Bitcoin is great. I still didn't buy any Bitcoins, to be honest with you, because I'm waiting for the right entry point for myself. Like I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm like, what? I have a strategy, right? I could tell myself this month I'll put $500 in Bitcoin. Next month I'll put another $500. Every month I'll put $500. Why? Because it could go up and it could go down. So I'll just put every month I'll put a certain same amount. Whether it goes up, it goes down, it doesn't, it'll just start averaging out more and more. So instead of putting one big chunk at the amount it is today and maybe taking a chance that tomorrow it just completely crashes 30, 40% off, 30%, 40%, I'll be like, you know what? I'll just put a certain amount every month or every couple of weeks. I'll put a certain amount and, it'll average out, right? Because eventually Bitcoin is, everybody's talking about reaching $1 million in terms of price. And if you think about it, it is very doable just because of the market cap, right? If it reaches a certain amount in terms of market cap, then yeah, it will be able to reach $1 million. Like people don't seem to understand. They think $1 million is not possible. It is possible if you look at the market cap. If you understand what market cap is, whether it's in a stock or even in Bitcoin now at this point, you will understand that it actually is very doable, that it reaches to that $1 million point. So now it's like, I think I didn't check today, but I think it's like it was between 50 and 60,000. And last time I checked the past week, it always Bitcoin's like 24/7, right? It never takes a rest. It's not like the stock market where the weekends and it only works from 9 to 5, whatever it is. The times that they have 9 to 4. Bitcoin is 24/7, so it's always fluctuating in terms of prices. But if you have a good strategy and if you want to invest in Bitcoin, I like Ethereum a lot more, right? Because I just like the platform that Ethereum offers. Because I've been reading about it and I like what Ethereum is all about, right? Bitcoin is obviously, the first mover, the first big one. So everybody's going crazy on Bitcoin. And don't get me wrong, I would probably invest in both, with the strategy that I have, which is basically I'll put a little bit every single month until I'm comfortable, and then if it goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. But eventually, hopefully, with this whole thing of the Web3 going on, it's inevitable that crypto is going to be the next thing, and people need to understand that eventually, not in 5 years from now, not in 10 years from now, but who knows, maybe in 10 years from now, but we don't know, right? But it will have to be the next big thing.
Well, you also have the right mindset about the long term, the long game play, and just being, hey, I'll do it. What is it? It goes up or it goes down, which as long as I've been in it, it's gone up and it's gone drastically down all the way practically back to the beginning. And then it went further beyond than it ever did before, just like the stock market has always done. So it really is a long-term play mixed in with a new paradigm of technology. So it's going to be exciting to watch for sure. But, question, where can everybody like find you and connect with you online and continue?
Social media, basically Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more on Instagram than any other platform. It's actually, you can find me anywhere with the same name. It's DJYO-C, DJ Yo C. So you just have to type in that. But I'm mostly on Instagram. Facebook, not as much. Twitter, not really anymore. I kind of stopped Twitter a long time ago. Just I'm more into I like more Instagram just because it allows me to interact more with people better. I've been on Clubhouse lately also.
Mm-hmm.
I've been liking Clubhouse. Just taking a break from it also at the moment because it's too much talking.
Yeah.
Twitch, I'm gonna start I have a Twitch account. I'll do some here and there. Nothing much right now, but that's it really.
I love it. Yeah, and I got you on Clubhouse, but I know I get it. I get exactly what you mean. It can be. I take these breaks every now and then because I'm like, all right, it's a lot of talking, man. But
especially you're doing these podcasts too, right? So you're gonna be that.
I am.
It's but I hear I'm not sure, but I heard that they were starting to think about how they were able to monetize Clubhouse.
Yep.
But I'm not sure. I've heard rumors about it. I just haven't seen anything yet concrete that what's going to happen with it.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's interesting. It's going to be all this new exchange of information and what that really means for everybody as a creator in this world. It's going to be interesting to watch where it goes from here. Another question I wanted to ask you as before we sign off, anything you got coming up that's exciting that you want to share, or just kind of just.
So, I'm also involved with all the businesses that I have, everything that I have. I have a nonprofit that I've been very, very involved in with my partner, Kim, that's in Vancouver. It's a Rescue All Dogs, where we basically try to rescue abused and neglected dogs all around the world. Doesn't have to be from Montreal, doesn't have to be from Vancouver. It could be literally from. We've done rescues in Lebanon. We brought in dogs from Lebanon. I go to the States a lot. Now we have a big mission end of April that we're hoping to get the proper funds for. And we're going to Manitoba, and we're hoping to bring back 50 to 75 stray dogs from there.
That's incredible.
So that's going to be a big mission. We're driving all the way there. It's going to be driving, staying there a couple of days, getting the dogs, and then driving back to Montreal. It's going to be like a week and a half of travel with all this. So yeah, I've been heavily involved with that one.
That's incredible though, and you have to keep me updated on that as well too. And in any way I can contribute to the cause. Like, I mean, I've been watching you there for a while.
Anyone could, we're always looking for donations, right? Because we're a non-profit, so the way we are able to save dogs is with donations. So if anybody eventually wants to look us up, it's Rescue All Dogs on Instagram. It's Rescue All Dogs Co. on Instagram, and if you want to donate, then you just go on there and you'll see a link, and anything helps really.
Amazing, brother. So everybody listening, at DJ Yosi, DJYOC on Insta, and then at Rescue All Dogs Co. on Instagram as well too. Perfect. Because because in any audience there's an avid dog lovers, and I've been watching for a while. Everything you've been doing, and you're always such an advocate, and I love watching you and Zach Scow with you guys.
Yes.
Yeah, you guys. You're both amazing. I had both of you on the podcast, so great stuff, man. I appreciate your time for sure for coming on and spending a good part of your day with me now at this point. So, really, yeah, absolutely, man. Kick back 1 second, but for everybody listening, DJ Yossi for our amazing guest. Check him out at DJYOC on Insta. Connect with him, reach out to him, and thank you guys seriously for tuning into On Top of the Covers. It means a lot to us and our movement, and to the contribution of music culture, and talking about all these diversified new paths to success. And we also thank you for giving us feedback and being part of the journey. Please do not forget to give us a 5-star written review on Apple. It definitely helps expand the show. And you can also follow us on all major platforms at We Are Orlove, and then myself, of course, at Matt Gottesman on Insta. And then subscribe to the Orlove YouTube channel for weekly launches of our web series Under the Covers. And then there'll also be total footage of this entire show on there as well. And we love and appreciate all of you, and we're out.